Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good night time, wherever you are. Welcome to the third video series this week on the power of going from zero to hero in 28 days. So today I want to speak to you about this little beauty. Now, this little beauty is something I've coined the Astro Tarot Mandala. And it's something I've been doing with my peeps on the Transformational Truth of Tarot when they come on a retreat with me. And what we do is we look up the astrological associations with each of the tarot cards. So this is a person's birth chart. So I print their birth chart off, and then I give them a list of all the associations, because every single tarot card has an astrological association with it. Okay, so this is mine, for example, and I'm just going to talk you through it now a little bit. Okay, so say you've printed yours off, and you can do this at astro.com. That's where I got this one from. Printed it off, and you can look up the astrological associations. You could put in astrological tarot associations into Google, or the Golden Dawn astrological associations with tarot. If nothing comes up, you can try the Golden Dawn one as well. Okay, so you just want to Google astrological associations with tarot, and lists should come up. Now, the list that I have is the Golden Dawn, and the Golden Dawn is old school. So there's a few things that aren't in there. For instance, Chiron, which is an asteroid, is not in there. Okay, so this is where astrological knowledge becomes a benefit, because I can see here Chiron is in Taurus. Now you might be thinking, how on earth do I know this? But you might see this little bit of square, this little mark here. When you go and you print out your chart, you'll see all of these symbols. So the coloured ones in the circle around the outside, and then these ones in the inside, in a little like cross-section chart. Okay, and you can work it out from there. There's also just above there's a list. It will say like Leo, and it will then have this, and so you will be able to tell by cross-sectioning. Okay, so as I was saying, I'm going to take you through mine, and the first one here is Chiron in Taurus. Now, I couldn't find an astrological association for Chiron in Taurus, but I know that Chiron is the healer, the wounded healer, and that Taurus is, well, could be the high priest, because he's Taurian, he's Taurus, but I felt like the wounded healer was much more the earth, and so I've put the Empress because I know that she is the earth goddess. Okay, now the next one is Mars in Gemini, and Mars in Gemini does have an association, and that is the Nine of Swords. So that's my head, peeps. Believe it or not, that's why I'm an inner transformation specialist. And then we have Jupiter in Gemini, which correlates to the Eight of Swords. So the Eight of Swords goes there by Jupiter in Gemini. It's interesting because my mother is a double Gemini, and our relationship has been very much like this. And it's interesting to see how all of these things start to tell a story. My husband is also a Gemini. He's got 5 planets in Gemini. And so it's quite interesting that this is very prominent. Jupiter in Gemini. So Jupiter, where Jupiter is in a heterosexual woman's chart, shows the man she's going to marry. And Mars shows the man that you're attracted to. So I have Mars and Jupiter in Gemini, and I ended up marrying a Gemini. So quite interesting, this stuff, isn't it? Now, moving, if you have any questions, guys, pop them in the chat box and I'll come to you later, okay, about the questions. So then I have Venus in Cancer, which is the Two of Cups. So that gives me this nice little heart. Head might be a bit messed up, but the heart is in the right place. And then I've also got the Moon in Cancer. Now, I struggled with this one because I know the Moon in Cancer is the High Priestess, and the egoic side of me really wanted to put that there and go, see, I'm the High Priestess. That's why you have to come to me to learn this stuff. But really, with this chart, you do have to go with the minor arcana if there's an association. It will give you more understanding. It will pin things down for you a lot more. So I behaved and put the Four of Cups, which is more like a sulky teenager kind of card. And yeah, I also resonate with that big time. I have to really keep her in check, and this helps to keep her in check. And that is the Sun card, and that's the Sun in Leo, so that really helps keep her in check. And that's like that lovely unconditional childlike play kind of energy. But I also have Saturn in Leo conjunct my Sun, so I also have this on top of it. I spoke a bit about that in yesterday's chart as well. So this is a bit chaotic and hard, but I've learned also to embrace the chaos. This one doesn't help me embrace the chaos, but this one does. So that's where the magic can be found. The alchemy can be found. Quite interestingly, the Hermit is next, the Alchemist is next, looking down on that here, you see. And so the reason the Hermit is next is because that's Mercury in Virgo. That represents the author and the teacher, the shaman, and so on. So I really do resonate quite strongly with that energy there as well. Then we have Pluto in Libra. Now, as I said, the Golden Dawn is a bit old school. There was no associations for Pluto. So basically, you then have to think about it a little bit more. So Libra is all about fairness and justice. So we've got justice, but my true node, my north node, where my soul is heading, is also justice. And it's all about service. It's in the 6th house, which is why a lot of my clients tend to be Queens of Swords or justices, either people in the police force or lawyers. And the majority, not all, but the majority of my clients do tend to have quite a strong Queen of Swords energy. Teachers, psychologists, and yeah, they really do seem to be drawn to this type of work. Or maybe it's just that I have this in my workhouse. Yes, that happens. Then I've got Uranus in Death. Again, I couldn't find an association for that. Sorry, in Scorpio. So I had to go with what I know about the major arcana, which is that Death is Scorpio. So I've put that there. And then again, I didn't see any association for Neptune in Sagittarius. So I've put Temperance there because I know Temperance is also Sagittarius. And that's quite interesting that both of these are here, because my daughter, who passed away, was a Sagittarius. And you can go, and that's just me reading it round like that. Yeah, that's just me reading my birth chart round like that. When you actually signify or yeah, when you make it visual, it becomes like, it unlocks so much more than this mathematical precision type of language. And you can read it so many ways. Like, this is a flowing storytell of my life. But the way that we work with it in my classes, when people get together and we do this work together, we actually pick out a couple of aspects. And yes, I can see you saying hello, Adele. It is working. Thank you. So we pick out a couple of aspects. So it might be, here we go. We've got the Nine of Swords opposing Temperance here. And so say I was a client and yeah, gonna have to split me in two now. I'm the teacher and I'm the client. I'd be asking the client, myself, what I would like to explore. And these lines show the relationships between the cards. Yes. So these lines have a relationship. It shows you which ones are in direct relationship. So this one here is an opposition, which is an easy aspect to see because it's like opposite. It's this big red long line. So it's an opposition between Mars in Gemini, the Nine of Swords, and Neptune in Sagittarius, Temperance. So Mars in Gemini just wants things to be done and now. And Temperance here is like, it's the opposite. It's not got bogged down with life. It wants to, it's like, let go and just surrender. And there's a higher consciousness, there's a higher plane, and I don't have to sort this out. I can just rise above it. And so what I would do then is I would ask myself, the client, what song represents that feeling in you to you? And then as a group, we all get together and we all pick an aspect and we all pick a song. And then we go and we dance it out. And it's amazing. Isn't it, Ruth? Just see that you popped up. Thank you. So yeah, I don't know if the comments are coming through, but I could see Adele's. I don't know if anybody else is commenting. So yep. Adele, I've got yours as well. So there we have. It's interesting because Adele is saying, wow, so Temperance is really helpful for your client, meaning me. Yes and no, because there's an opposition here. Yes, and oppositions have to be worked through. So this is what we do by actually going into a room with the song, and we split the group up into two. So the person will decide who is going to be in the Nine of Swords and who is going to be in Temperance. And then we embody that archetype and we put the music on and we just see what happens. And I think you would really have to be there to understand the power of what happens. But if you've ever done family constellations, I haven't, but I would expect it to be very similar. It's, I think, a mix of family constellations and five rhythms. And the feeling of empathy that is really comes with the group is incredible, because you really get to feel what it's like for that person to have that aspect. And some transformation happens, some transmutation, and so on. So this is how you do an Astro Tarot mandala, and this is how you can bring it to life and actually start to work through any tension in your chart for resolution. And then there you go, that's it. So I don't know if oh, I've got some some comments coming up now. So yes, we were starting on the Temperance, and yes, everything is helpful in your chart, but everything is also kind of conflicted, and it's all about finding that transmutation. Does that make sense? And so yes, here we go. I'm going to go through any questions. Rosie says, just fascinated here. Awesome, Rosie. Well, if you want to learn more, we're going to be doing this in your Zero to Hero journey that starts on Good Friday. And if you want the link to that, just put yes, please in the chat box and I will get you the link. Okay, Eleanor is saying, I find this all very interesting, but I'm not sure why Mars is in Gemini is represented by the Nine of Swords. Is it just that one in particular that's confusing you? Or is it like, well, why are certain cards put for certain planets and certain situations? So when you know astrology, you'll probably understand a bit more, but just look up the Golden Dawn. They didn't know what they were talking about, astrological associations with tarot. So if you think of Gemini, for instance, Gemini has got a lot going on in its head and it's very fast. Yes. And then if you think of, say, swords, not swords, sorry, Mars. Mars is also very fast and kind of like attacking, right? So this is the energy of the Nine of Swords. It's like Swords is Gemini, yes, it's air signs, and as it's got as it's grown, so it's gone from 1 up to 9 to where it's nearly bursting. That's why. Does that make sense? I hope I've explained that what as well as I possibly can. But yeah, it's got to a really attacking place. It's built up too much. Does that make sense? Rosie says, linking astrology, tarot, and dancing sounds right up my street. Well, there you go. It's right up my street too. And so I'm putting them all together now. And I'm doing from Zero to Hero, which has got astrology, tarot, and dancing. And I'm also doing a retreat in Granada with Natalie, who's a flamenco dancer and a very good friend of mine. She used to be a client of mine, and that's how we met. And then when I moved over to Spain, it was why I moved over there. Well, I had my own stuff going on, but why I chose Spain was because of her. And she is now, her flamenco course is top 10 in the Times now. And so we're doing a retreat together, and we're going to be doing this astro tarot dance on one day and flamenco on the other day, as well as going to the best hammam in the world and activating our high priestess, because Granada has the tree of life over it. Yes, it's got like ley lines, the tree of life, not exactly ley lines, but there's the landmarks fit with the tree of life, and it is the tree of life. It's the city of pomegranates, and pomegranate is also a tree of life. If you cut it in half, you see the tree of life, and it's amazingly magical. So I'm really excited and looking forward to that, which is happening in August. But before then, for Easter, we're doing this on a Zero to Hero basis, where you don't actually really need to get on a plane. It's a warm-up, shall we say. Yes, does that make sense? So how are they both helpful, the light and the dark? You've got it. What are the light aspects of each card? What do the dark aspects challenge you to master? Really great questions. Yeah, okay. So Adele's questions here is like, how are they both helpful? So this is a really good point, because we get this with tarot, that, you know, death is a negative card, sun is a positive card, but there is positive and negatives to all of them. Like, have too much sun, get sunstroke, get sunburnt. You know, it's boundaries, which is why there's a wall there. You can have too much of a good thing. Death, whenever some of you might have done the journeys with me, which we'll be doing in Zero to Hero. We're going to do the Major Arcana journey, and that death is something sometimes people really fear living, connecting with that card for the day. But generally speaking, it feels liberating, especially if we faced our fears. So the negative side of it is getting over any attachments, but then when we do, we're liberated. Yeah, the Nine of Swords is a bit of a harder one to see the positive side of. I will give you that. But if there does need to be some balance here, because temperance can be too floaty, and the Nine of Swords can give some attention to detail that temperance doesn't really want to deal with. And so once they've found this beautiful aspect together, the balance together, that's when everything gets aligned. Does that help explain that? Okay, yeah. So this is something I can't go on to in terms of Eleanor and Adele are asking why certain cards are linked with certain cards, and I've certain signs, and I can't go into all of that with you today because we'd be here forever. That's a course in itself. You'd have to learn astrology and tarot to understand it. But for instance, the sun is ruled by Leo, yeah? And so we've got the sun here, and that's why that is that. So that might be really easy to see. And another easy one to see is justice is Libra, right? Balance and the scales, fairness. And Scorpio is death, the sting of the scorpion, right? So it's kind of easier maybe to see with the major arcana like Temperance, Sagittarius, because they're both seekers, they're both philosophers, they're both spiritual teachers, and they both want to expand. They just keep seeking and seeking and seeking. But maybe with the minor arcanas, it's a little bit harder to see. You would probably need to really know more on the astrological basis. So Saturn in Leo is hell, basically. Saturn is Satan. Yeah, Leo is hot. And we just get this bubbling mess there. Yes. And the Two of Cups here. So moon in Cancer. The moon in Cancer, so the moon is emotional and Cancer is emotional. So you've got lots of emotion here, yeah, that get on well. This is like the heart, a real heart-to-heart energy. So hopefully I'm starting to help you understand a bit, but it really is a course or two in itself. The Eight of Swords here in Gemini, for instance, is also Jupiter, the planet of expansion, is in its detriment in Gemini, and Gemini likes to expand too, so it doesn't feel expanded, hence this Eight of Swords. Does that help a bit? As I said, it's a course and a half or two in its own, and we would be doing more of that in Zero to Hero.